The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim released on November 11th, 2011. So at the time of recording this video, it's been 8.5 years, and the only concrete information we have on the Elder Scrolls 6 is a 37-second teaser trailer from Bethesda's 2018 E3 conference, telling us that 6.5 years after the release of Skyrim, the next game is only in pre-production and likely to still be several years from release. To put that into context, Oblivion released in 2006, 5.5 years before Skyrim. Therefore, it's looking extremely likely that the time between TES 6 will at the very least be double the time between Oblivion and Skyrim. So why on earth is The Elder Scrolls 6, one of the most anticipated games of all time, taking so long to make? In this video, I'm going to explain exactly why. It's important to understand that Bethesda Game Studios, the developers of the Elder Scrolls games since Morrowind, is not the same thing as Bethesda Softworks. Whilst Bethesda Softworks both developed and published the Elder Scrolls games up to Morrowind, Bethesda Softworks is now solely a game publisher, and Bethesda Game Studios, which I will refer to as BGS for the rest of this video, is a game development team which was separated from Bethesda Softworks in 2002. Think of it as Bethesda Softworks are a book publisher, like Penguin, and BGS are the book writer, like J.K. Rowling. Bethesda Softworks also publishes games developed by id Software, who made Doom, Quake and Rage, if anyone remembers the Rage games, and Arcane Studios, who made Dishonored and Prey, and worked with id Software to make Wolfenstein. And then you have ZeniMax Media, which is the parent company and owns all of these teams, and just to make things confusing, created another development team called ZeniMax Online for the Elder Scrolls Online, meaning that whilst BGS would have done a bit of work and advising for Elder Scrolls Online, they did not develop it, so I won't be considering it when answering the question of this video of why is the Elder Scrolls 6 taking so damn long. BGS was established in 2001 and in the 19 years since then have developed and released 6 mainline Elder Scrolls games: Morrowind, Oblivion, Fallout 3, Skyrim, Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, plus a random drift racing game in 2004, 2 mobile games, a remaster of Skyrim, and VR versions of Skyrim and Fallout 4. If we only count the mainline AAA Fallout and Elder Scrolls games, the first releasing in 2002 and the latest releasing in 2018, that averages out at a new game every 2.5 years or so. The shortest time between games was 2 years between Oblivion and Fallout 3, and the longest was 4 years between Morrowind and Oblivion, thanks to the random racing game wedged in between them. And also there was 4 years between Skyrim and Fallout 4. So the general pattern for BGS has been 3 or 4 years of development for an Elder Scrolls game, then straight into another 3 or 4 years of development for a Fallout game, then back to Elder Scrolls, then back to Fallout, and the two continue to rotate. So if that pattern had continued after Fallout 4, we would have gotten an Elder Scrolls 6 in 2018 or 2019. There are 2 big reasons why that did not happen, and why there is going to be such a huge gap between the Elder Scrolls 6, and those reasons are Fallout 76 and Starfield. After Fallout 4, instead of going back into developing the next Elder Scrolls game, as they usually would, Bethesda Game Studios decided that after over a decade of creating very similar games, they wanted to try something new, which is fair enough. So they decided to make an online-only multiplayer game set in the Fallout universe, something that Fallout fans had been fantasizing about for years, but very different to the type of games they have made before, and starts working on a completely new IP that would be very much the same style as the games they've made before, but set in an entirely new science fiction universe, and that game would be called Starfield. So after Fallout 4, there is a standard 3-year wait for the next Bethesda Game Studios game, but the pattern is broken and this game is Fallout 76, and this game is different to the standard single player Fallout and Elder Scrolls games because it is a game that is meant to be played and supported by the development team for years after its release, with constant updates and new content funded by cosmetic microtransactions, a type of game now known as games as a service. Fortnite is a great example of how such a model can be successful. This means that whilst working on the next game, Starfield, many of Bethesda Game Studios' team will be busy supporting Fallout 76 with content updates. However, I didn't mention that in 2015, 1 year after the release of Fallout 4, BGS opened a new studio in Montreal and expanded its team. And it expanded again in 2018 as a development team known as Battlecry Studios became part of Bethesda Game Studios and helped work on Fallout 76. So when you take the expansion into consideration, you would expect that the ongoing support for Fallout 76 shouldn't affect the development time for BGS's next game, Starfield, too much. Therefore, with the standard 3 to 4 year wait between games, we can expect Starfield could release in 2021 or 2022, and the Elder Scrolls 6 could release between 2024 and 2026, 13 to 15 years after Skyrim. So you could have been born on the day of Skyrim's release, and even in the ideal scenario I'm proposing here, you would be a teenager by the time the next Elder Scrolls game releases. Madness. As a fan of the series, I must admit that thinking about not having another Elder Scrolls game for another 6 years is very disappointing, but it's also completely understandable. One of the main reasons BGS games are so fantastic, with Fallout 76 being the only exception in mine and most others' opinions, is because they take so long to make. These are fantastic games filled with hundreds of hours of content that can be completed in completely different ways, siding with different factions, using different builds, and choosing different personalities and dialogue options for your characters. For many BGS fans, Fallout 76 has been a rather large bump in the road. However, I'm super excited for Starfield and really looking forward to trying a BGS game set in a completely new world and learning all about the lore that will most likely come with this new game world. I have faith that because it will be a single player RPG, which is what BGS are good at, Starfield will be just as good and could end up being even better than the Fallout and Elder Scrolls games. Until then, fans of great single-player RPGs can still enjoy modded Fallout 4 and Skyrim, with games from other developers like CD Projekt Red's Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, and Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla to keep themselves entertained until the Elder Scrolls 6 does finally release, if we can all live long enough to see it. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like on this video and let me know your prediction on when TES 6 will release in the comments. I'll speak to you in the next one.